Our guest today is a poet, she is a playwright, and she is a performing artist. Her dramatized play performances have been done here in Kenya and beyond the borders, but I will let her tell us everything about her exciting journey. Welcome to the program, Sitawa Namwalie.
Thank you very much, Chico.
Thank you for
Empress
coming.
Chico.
Yes. How are you?
I'm really good. I can say that for real, that I'm really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We warm up with one question. What are you reading right now?
Right now, I'm actually reading from our book series, the new book series from Story Moja, which is a historical fiction books for African children that are really exciting. That I've been involved in developing. And the one I'm reading right now is actually this one, because we now have 3 and many more are coming. It's a calamity of the Kasigao. And the Kasigao is a community near the coast. They are very closely related to the Taita. And so this book tells the horrific story of what the British did to them during the First World War. During the First World War, exactly. And during, I think it was about 1915. And just to give you a little taster, because they're going to be available in bookshops.
Right.
The British ended up taking a whole community, making them go and walk, get onto a train, and they put them and get to the coast, Mombasa, and put them on a ship because they were going to drown them.
Like not taking them as slaves, but drowning them.
They were going to drown them.
Because
you have to find the book, buy the book, and read it. Our history is extraordinary. Unfortunately, they still live, they survive. And actually, very interestingly, women played a really big part in their survival and they're coming back to their original home, which was several decades later. So please buy these.
Maybe I'll jump ahead. I was going to ask you about these ones, but now much later. But now that we are already here, tell me the idea behind this. How did just maybe I show our viewers a few of this. There's a series of how many books? How many?
There's going to be very many. I mean,
there's a lot of them. Some of them are here. Tell us the idea behind this books.
So the idea is that young African children, young African people, we need our history back. And it is our job to reclaim our history. And this is a movement. It's like a global movement. So the diaspora as well as the continent.
Right.
Lots of people are recovering our history. Because imagine in the late 19th century, it was said Africa does not have history because we have done nothing. And I know that when I was at school, these are the kinds of things that were thrown at you, and it was so annoying, and I was so upset. Because I knew in my mind it couldn't be true. I mean, Yani, did my relas just sit around doing nothing, eating, and I don't. No, they didn't. You know, all the energy that I have, all the dreams and the, you know, the inspiration and the desires that I have, I know they had.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they used it to create it. Of course, they used it to create history, right? To create a heritage. And so that part of the reason for that is to give this history to our children. And the main reason is that we want African children, African people to have pride in themselves. During the process of developing these books, we've had the good fortune of interviewing just quite randomly young people and how they feel about themselves, about Africa, about the continent. And it is so sad that they carry this idea that we were told long ago, that's been passed on, that we don't have history, that we didn't do anything, right? So when they want to develop, many of them, when they want to develop a story, they think, oh, we're going to go to America and you know the
Start from
Wild
there.
West and cowboys and Indians,
Yeah.
right? We're going to Alexander. Oh, we love the Roman history,
And
etc.
who discovered like
You know,
Victoria or something?
exactly.
Yeah.
So now when these young people now start working on these books, they're so shocked at how incredible our history is, and so you start watching them becoming proud of themselves, proud of being African, because a lot of people are embarrassed, and you know, there's embarrassment, there is shame,
Absolutely.
which is a killer, right?
Yeah.
So for me, imagine that what it's not surprising that so many young people want to leave the continent because it's a place of shame,
Yeah.
right? But as soon as they start reading, you know, finding out this history, they're like, oh, I'm a proud person.
Yeah,
Okay, we did
I
this.
have
and
roots.
and people didn't just come here and take over.
No,
We fought back.
we fought.
We did all sorts of
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
The kind of research involved here must be crazy
Exactly.
because you've gone back tens, almost
Hundreds
a century,
of years, yes.
hundreds of years
Yes.
ago. And how did you do
Well,
that?
you know, really, it is there.
Yeah.
The incredible and amazing thing is that history is there. There is one book that is coming out, which is Queen Amarini Renas. Yeah. A Nubia queen. Yeah. And this queen, she defeated Augustus Caesar. Augustus Caesar had conquered Egypt, right? So way back.
Yeah.
Before Christ, right? And then was on his way to conquer Nubia, and her husband had just died, and then she took over, and she fought and defeated him, and then sent emissaries, and they had to have a treaty. So you know the two had, you know, the Roman Empire and her.
Where is that history? Where is it?
It's there.
Yeah. Are the archives online?
So first of all, online, right? Online, because we're not the only ones doing this. So there are lots of other people doing this. And so you can find it. And then also, remember we had writing. So they wrote, you know, those tablets.
Yeah.
Right? So that information is available.
It's available for anyone who wants.
And then, you know, and then also, because it was also the Romans, that information exists in Italy somewhere.
Yes.
Right? So on tablets, etc., you can actually find the stories of these battles, right?
Yeah.
And so what we do is we reimagine them, you know, fill in the gaps in interesting and creative ways, and come up with books.
Okay.
Yes.
There are that many, and maybe we should tell our viewers that there are histories from different African countries.
Absolutely.
The books are targeted at young people, maybe because that's where we need to start.
Yes.
But I can promise you, and she has promised me as well, that these books are interesting even to adults.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So we job.
We haven't dumbed them down.
No, you have not dumbed them down.
Dumbed them down. And yeah, the targeted children are between 10 and 13.
10 and 13.
Exactly. So, you know, that age, they become very clever.
Yes.
You can't just say, you know, write a simple, you know, language. So it's really, really well written.
Okay.
That all the children as well as adults can read them and enjoy
This
them.
is really exciting for me because I'm one of those people who really cry for the African history. Back to you. You are an amazing poet. Your performances are so energetic and fire, and it's like you're not sure whether you're listening to a rap song or a music or I don't know how to explain. But tell me your history. Where did we start? How did we get to where we are? Rudi nyuma kabisa. Kabisa.
Okay. I was born long ago.
We believe you if you say so.
And I was born in Kakamega. Okay. Let me begin there. And after, I think when I was about 3 years old, we moved to Nairobi because my late father, my late parents, my father then got a job, finished university at Makerere University, and then came, you know, they eventually moved to Nairobi and brought me along. And because my father was the first person the late William Dala Wamalwa was the first person in his clan to go to university, and to, you know, that to do well.
Yes.
Our home then became a magnet for people moving from rural areas to urban areas.
The stopovers,
Education,
yes.
stopover sometimes for a week, sometimes for years, right? Because they're coming to school,
Yeah.
their relatives, their friends, they're transitioning, right? And interestingly, when they transition, they would come bring stories. So we would be, I think until I was about 13, I didn't even sleep in my own bed because by myself, because there was always somebody who
Somewhere
needed to
who
be,
needed to be.
so I would sleep with my, share a bed with my sister, whatever. And then in the evening, before we went to sleep, they would tell us stories, right? And even without realizing it, I'm imbibing these stories, and I'm imbibing the method of how you tell a story in an African way. But then I'm also going to school, and I'm learning Shakespeare and Greek storytelling and all that stuff, right? And then my late father became a total readaholic. So he loved to read. He loved the written word, and so he's introducing us to books and he had no problem buying me whatever book I wanted. And then there was Macmillan Library, right?
Yeah.
So there was a library that we would go to, and so I'm getting this incredible mix of the traditional storytelling, and then also Western storytelling. Yeah. And really that's where it began. And so then I went to, of course I finished school, and then I went to Nairobi University, and I did botany and zoology.
I would have come to that. Botany and zoology.
So I did botany and zoology at Nairobi University, but at 14 years old, and the teacher had walked in one day and talked about the environment, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. And I don't know why I was gripped, but I was gripped. And then I went to my father and I said, you know what? I'm going to be an environmentalist when I grow up. And he told me, that's a career of the future. Keep going.
Go for it.
Go for it, exactly. And somehow, although I'm the kind of person who wanted to be everything, I want to be a lawyer, an economist, a psychologist, and whatever. Somehow I stuck with it. Yeah. So I'm finishing at the university, and then I think to myself, hold on, how do I know that I will like this profession? So then I looked in. We used to have directories in those days. There was no Google. Okay. So I looked in the directory and I found a place called National Environment Secretariat. And I picked up the phone and I said to myself, I'm going to go and get a job
there
in the environment to see whether it's something I want. And I'm not talking to anybody. I'm just deciding on my own.
Yeah.
So a few months before I'm finishing university, I'm graduating, I pick up the phone and I call the National Environmental Secretariat and I say I want a meeting with the director.
Very initiative.
And my voice is quite deep and authoritative.
Right.
So the secretary, because in those days there were secretaries, says his personal assistant says, gives me an appointment. Right? So then I arrive and she looks at me and she's like, who is this thin little
girl?
And she says to me, he's not available.
You're joking.
It didn't bother me.
No.
I just thought to myself, okay, she doesn't, it's okay. And then I booked another appointment. I said, when can I come back? She gave me an appointment for the next week. And then I came again. And again, she said he wasn't available. And then I looked at her and I just thought, she doesn't understand.
Yeah.
And then I said, when can I booked another appointment?
Yeah.
So on the third appointment, she allowed me to see him.
Too persistent.
Yes, I was too persistent.
Yeah.
And I saw the guy.
Yeah.
And then I told him my life plan. How I'm going to be an environmentalist.
You could have saved this.
And I want to come and work here because. And then he told me about government procedures, and I'm looking at him like, these people don't understand.
Yeah.
And I went home, and then the next week I get a call from an American professor who, because there was a professor, there was a university that had a partnership with that National Environmental Secretariat. And he called me and he said he was really impressed with me and my persistence and the clarity that I was very clear what I wanted in life. He gave me a job. I got a scholarship.
Wow.
To go to Clark University to study environmental studies.
That's where you got your master's
That's
degree.
where I got my master's.
How?
I got a scholarship.
Just like that. You were
Just
not
like
even
that.
looking for it.
I wasn't looking for it, and I got it.
Wow. Do you hear that, children? That's how you do it. Ask.
Exactly. And be I mean, who are they to tell me no? I'm the one who wants something.
Yeah.
So what is it I'm going to do to get it?
Right.
And out of the blue, So I get this scholarship, and in months after graduation, I'm off to the US, and everybody thinks my parents did it, and they didn't.
Nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Probably the confidence.
I mean,
they steal the confidence.
I mean, and what really helped me also to get this confidence is because, again, earlier on, I was involved in sports, so I became.
You need to tell people a little about that, because this super poet of ours has represented Kenya in hockey
and tennis.
Yes. That's national team.
Yes.
Are you sporty right now?
I am.
You are very sporty right now. What do you do?
Sporty. I walk, I exercise, I always keep up my exercise, because if I don't, I won't be able to perform on stage.
No, you would not. That's the thing. You said earlier, you said something like you are the kind of person who wants to do everything. And it kind of looks like you did. You did do everything.
Yes.
So I'm here wondering, how did you then decide, no, environmental and all those animal thingies, they're not my style. So I'm going to concentrate on creative.
Right. So that is, let me tell you a little bit about the sports first, because it does play a role, right? In generating confidence, right? Because I went Loretta Convent Valley Road, and they had an incredible sports program. And so I started to play tennis, and I started to play hockey, and they're all sports. But then I became really good at those two. And then got into playing tournaments and so forth. Yeah. And you in those days, what we were doing is we're literally decolonizing white spaces, because those sports were
for white people,
and Asians.
Absolutely.
And
true.
so you're facing racism, appalling racism, right from a very early age, and having to fight these battles and having to understand who you are, very quickly, and and having to come up with strategies. How am I going to overcome this fact that these people don't want me here in these spaces, right?
Yes, I'm going to have to be here.
I'm going to be here, and so you're going to be good, right? So you're just going to be good. You just have to be better than everybody else, right?
True, yes.
And so then then we start traveling at a young age, doing well, and the public are understand much more than we did. I did what we were doing, right? Because I'm just like, oh, I've got a tennis match, and then people are coming and watching and getting excited. Africans, getting excited.
So it's like opening the doors for them. They had a reason to come and watch.
Now I know it's because we were literally decolonizing these spaces and showing very very soon after independence that of course we can do this. We can play these games. We can excel,
and we can beat them,
and we can beat them exactly. And so you're gaining incredible confidence. You're traveling by yourself without your parents at an early age. You're having to navigate. So when these people when I'm at university and I'm walking in, I've made appointments, they're telling me, no, you can't see him. I don't even understand them.
They can't know what they're talking about. No.
Yeah, they can't stop me.
No.
Right? And so then I did my environmental work, etc. But because I was multi-talented, I was good at many things. And one of the reasons I was good at many things is curiosity. We forget the incredible power of some of these tendencies, some of these abilities, right? So for me, one of the things that's kept me, even now, I have curiosity.
Right.
I have a huge amount of curiosity. If I'm interested in something, I get very energized.
Yeah.
And then I'll take the time
You will learn
to
it.
understand it, to learn it, to learn how to do it well, right? So cooking, I love to eat good food. So I will cook. I will learn how to cook different things.
Yeah.
Right? And so that I can eat good food. You know? So as a child, I
like,
was very interested.
If you want something done,
yeah,
do it yourself.
Do it yourself.
Yeah.
So I you know, as a child, I was interested in reading. I mean, I was a total readaholic, right? In fact, my parents had to be careful because if somebody didn't follow me in the bath,
you would go with a book.
I would go. I always went with a book, and 2 hours later, the water is
cold,
and I'm reading.
You're not even feeling it.
I'm reading.
You've already traveled to Paris or something.
You know, somebody has to come and knock on the door.
Yes.
If they don't make sure that I have slept and taken my book away, 3 a.m.
You're still
I'm reading.
Whoa.
Right?
Whoa.
So this is you know, excessive tendencies.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
So and of course reading is the these books are the foundation and the place where you learn how to write.
That is true.
You know,
you cannot be a writer unless you read.
This is where you get the lessons, right? And so then as a child I started to write. I started to test it and you know, writing, and I loved poetry as well. And I wrote a story, shared it. I think I was about 11. I shared it with my father, who was always my praise singer. He was like, this is fantastic. So I took it to school, shared it with a teacher. And in those days, it was Mzungu teachers, and most of the classes were Mzungus. And they told me, no, you couldn't have written this. And so I quit. I thought to myself, nobody will ever believe me. I didn't say it out loud, but I thought, nobody will ever believe me, so I quit.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because of the power of an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah. Power of a teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, I continued to read, etc., etc. So I let that dream sit aside. Eventually, I got back to it, right? And what happened was, you know, I've worked with I worked in environmental issues. I had a career in development. Yeah. So, you know, 25 years in development. I worked with NGOs. I worked with government for 6 months. I couldn't last. I worked with the United Nations, various programs, the World Bank, USAID, IUCN, because I'm very, you know, environmental work
Look
as well.
At you.
Yeah. So I worked with international organizations, and in my last and I also think that it was when Moy left, actually. If you remember 2002, after he left, 2003, there was an explosion of the arts.
Yeah.
So all sorts of Binyavanga, all sorts of people just came up and
it was like they
doing,
had been squeezed,
they had been
somebody
it was
opened
so weird. Exactly. And they were festivals, and I don't know, you know, all people writing and art and people staging amazing productions. And I came into mine in March 2007. And because I went to watch Shelja Patel, a Kenyan artist, a poet, who I knew about and I'd heard about because she's gone to the same school as me.
Wait, all this time since the teacher told you can't write, you never actually?
No, I was writing, but I wasn't really writing creatively, and I really didn't have that much confidence in my writing.
Okay.
But I did say to myself, because when I did my master's when I did my master's degree, I would write reports and I would write, you know, essays, etc., and they would be really well received. In the US, they just praise you. They're like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And then I thought to myself, one of the things I'm going to do professionally as a development professional is that I'm going to be really good at writing. So I became really good at writing reports, etc. I did research.
I like that you say you made the decision to be good.
Yeah, no, I made sure.
I love that.
I not only just made the decision, I was like, I'm going to write a certain way. So there's a complexity to my writing. Yeah,
you can't copy.
So even exactly, even a report, I would take the time and write it in, you know, put a little history, do, you know, whatever, so that it's a meaty, enjoyable report, right? And so I'm literally honing my writing skills, even though not in the creative field, right? And so when I then started, in March 2007, I go and watch Shelja Patel, and I'm like, my goodness, I understand what she's doing. Yeah, she had come home and she was performing Migritude, and it was wonderful. And the next day I went and I sat down and I wrote my first poem. But you see, I've been writing.
You have been writing.
I've been
Yes.
every little, like even an email. I don't
You
joke. I don't just
do
write.
not write email.
I will write an email properly.
Yes.
Right. I will write a letter properly. I will write a report, and I was a consultant as well. And I'm doing reports, etc., and all sorts of.
So you're writing,
I'm writing,
yeah.
and I'm doing research.
Yeah.
And I'm a person of ideas. I'm a person of the mind. Yeah. So that's who I am. Yeah. And so I'm writing, and different topics, and doing the research, and you're creating the flexibility of mind, because to be a creative writer is to be really flexible.
True.
And really creative.
True.
Right. And imaginative. So that when I then came, and the first day I wrote my first poem, which is called what is it called again? It's called Land of Guiltless Natives. And it's about our relationship with land, and how we kill for it, and how we all want it. Right? And it's been incredibly well received. The complexity is there. Then I know about land because I'd written articles, etc., done research on land, our land issues, right? So all this development work that I've been doing is coming in, and I've worked with Wananchi, I've worked with women groups, with farmers, with pastoralists, I've learned all sorts of exactly, right? So there's this complexity that I'm able to bring
together
to a poem, because of my development work and generally my curiosity,
right?
Yeah.
Then so you say it's been well received. When was it well received? I need to know when your explosion happened, because there was a point where you just went.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's absolutely true. I did.
It wasn't 1 minute you were not there, and then the next she's like, awards. I don't know what. I know she's going to. Was it the Hay Festival?
Yes.
Yes, and I'm like, Hay Festival. Do we know how much it takes to go to the Hay Festival? Please tell me what happened.
So 2007, I write my first poem. And then I continue writing. Then I start saying to myself, but how do I know I'm any good? Because I'm not interested in just doing things.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's got to be excellent.
Right.
And then I started to share it on websites. And there was one website called Chicken Bones, a journal, right? An African American guy who had this website.
Is it still on? That sounds like something of it.
Exactly. And he collected Black writing. And every time he rejected a piece, I understood what was wrong. Yes.
Every time he rejected any of your pieces.
Yeah, this is from March 2007. So of course I'm sharing with my friends, because I'm that kind of person.
Yeah.
I'm sharing with my friends and my family, and they're like, "Oh, this is really good," but how do I know?
Yeah. You're my
They're
family, you're my friends, and you're not poets.
I don't really. Yeah, exactly. So then I shared it with him. When he would accept a piece, I was happy. But when he rejected a piece, I was even happier, because I began to tell why.
Yeah.
Right. And then improve my writing. Yeah. And then it was also a time of flowering, right? There's all sorts of people. I think Mudhoni Garland has started Story Moja, Binyavanga with Kwani. All sorts of people are doing all sorts of amazing writing, right? And creativity. And so I'm part of this whole mix. Yeah. And so we're feeding each other. They're feeding me. I'm feeding them. I'm sharing my work with people. And there's because I was so much older, because I was in my 40s, right? When I really started, I understand how special and precious it is not to have any expectations on myself, and for people not to have any expectations of me. Who am I? I'm not, I'm not a poet. Who am I? So I would enjoy each piece, because I knew that this is a very, very special time. It's virgin territory, and my job is just to enjoy myself, right? So then, at the end of 2007, you know what happened?
Yeah.
We had an election.
Yeah.
Post-election violence. We almost lost this country. And then I'm working. I'm working with a certain organization. But then I'm also, in the mix, in the creative mix, and I'd been sharing my work. And then a few months after in May, in fact, after the end of the post-election violence, because it ended on the 28th of February, 2008.
2008,
we stopped. I went to some place, to Romoma Gallery. There was a gallery called Romoma in Parklands, and I posed as a poet. I said, "Who are you?" I said, "My name is Sitawa Namwalie, and I'm a poet."
Your name is a poem in itself,
exactly.
so it would be very easy to believe you, because it's like, "Hi,
exactly.
I'm Sitawa Namwalie,"
and I'm a poet, and nobody knew me as a poet in those days. And then this woman goes, "Oh my goodness, you must come and do a recital here." So then I left after whatever I was doing there, and I go to Mudhoni Garland's office. She just also had been shortlisted for the Kane Prize for her lovely.
Did you know
book.
each other?
Yes, we had known each other and gotten to know each other in that whole environment,
circle,
in that circle, right? And I laughingly said, "Oh, I was here and I said such and such," and she said, "Sit down." And she called Antonio So, who was her intern at the time, and he sat down and she said, "Let's set a date for the show." She said, "We are having the show," because I had shared my poetry with her and she'd really loved it. And I didn't get how good I was, but other people did, and she did. Right? And so she said, "Sit down," and then she said, "Let's get a date." It was the 27th of June, when we're going to have the show. Let's do a rehearsal schedule. And for some reason, I knew exactly what I wanted, as much as I'm pretending that I don't know.
You still knew what.
I knew exactly. So I did a list of the people who were going to perform with me. Antonio, and then we scheduled the rehearsals. And then Antonio So went off, and in like 2 hours we had everything together, and we started rehearsals. And then we did this thing, and we had two musicians, using traditional musical instruments, which I don't know why, but that was right at the beginning.
So that was right from the word go.
Right from the word go. Right from the word go. Right, and then we have I remember we had we worked. Then we had a dress rehearsal, and then the next day, we gave everybody off. And then the show was supposed to be on a Saturday. So Thursday was our dress rehearsal. And meanwhile, I've gotten people Kiko Romeo to provide costumes for everybody for free.
That's when Kiko Romeo was
exactly. I've got this woman who used to be this Mzungu woman who had a jewelry shop in the Junction, right? Her expensive jewelry. Everybody was wearing incredible, because I just had this image of what I wanted.
Yes.
And I told everybody, you have to wear high heels. And some of them kicked and screamed, and I'm just like, sorry.
Yeah, and I've screamed too.
We're not doing exactly. And many of us didn't wear high heels. And I said, we're not doing that grass thatch, sievering maneno. We're modern Africans using our roots. We're not going to be lazy, right? At just copying the and claiming
just
that
because it has worked before.
Exactly. I'm like, this is totally new.
Yeah.
And so we're going to look a certain way. Yeah. And so we had our technical rehearsal on the Thursday. We were horrible, and we'd given everybody off on we were horrible. Right. And we're doing readings, and we're so shocked.
That's how horrible you are.
The nerves, etc. Because most of us were amateurs. Yeah. They were my friends.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we
But you all agreed you were horrible, or did
no, we all agreed. Oh my God, we were horrible.
Okay.
We were actually
so nobody's feelings
horrible.
were hurt.
Nobody was like, no, we were horrible. We were like, my God, we've called, and at that stage, you've called your friends and your family. Yeah. So you're going to be horrible in front of your friends and your family. We're like, no. We cancelled the day off. We started and worked throughout that day. And by the end of the day, we were fantastic because it was just nerves, we were amateurs.
Yeah.
And then we had no idea, I think, like, I had no idea what I had done, like none.
No.
I didn't know I was funny. I didn't know anything.
You just did what you
I just did
had
whatever,
that
I
in
was
your head,
just writing, and then, and then we're amateurs, and, what do we know? So then, we sold out everything, the whole place, 100 tickets. And I stepped on stage and I said the first word, and there was an explosion of laughter. And you know, now
like,
you have to manage yourself,
yes,
because this is not what you were
no,
expecting.
no, that was a part of the script.
And the word was, otherwise.
Yeah, that's funny.
Right? Right? The way we use,
that's funny to a Kenyan.
Exactly.
Yes.
The way we use language, the way Kenyans use language, is what is so special and precious. That is true, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And then throughout the whole show, it was like the audience was performing for us as we performed for them. They were engaged, they were laughing, they were involved, they were upset because I learned to put create a journey, right? Use these individual poems to create a journey, and really it was about being Kenyan and how we had ended up, cut off my tongue, how we had ended up having this post-election violence that had almost destroyed the country. And so that was an emotional journey for Kenyans, because it was just a few months after
who are still
ended,
trying to figure out what happened.
What happened exactly, right?
That was the explosion.
Exactly, and that was the explosion that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And we did it, and then and then we had the show ended, and the audience just stood up, like spontaneously standing ovation. We were, and people will tell you about the first time you perform and do a really good show. That it's a magic beyond magic. The feeling you have is just, I don't know. They stood up. We were shocked. We were delighted. And then people came up to me afterwards and said, we only came because you're my friend. Because we knew, but there was this guy who said, I came and made sure you saw me because I was going to go off and have a drink, a beer, and then I'd make sure I'd come back at the end so that when you ask me, did I see the show?
Yeah, of
I'll
course
be able to say yes. And then he says, and then you stood on stage and said, otherwise.
And then you knew he wasn't going anywhere.
Exactly. And so, being doubtful artists, I remember Mudhoni and I, my partner in crime, said, okay, maybe that was an accident, because the reaction was too much.
Yeah.
Was like too fabulous. Maybe that was an accident.
One hit wonder kind of thing.
So let's do it again. So we then hired the museum, the Louis Leakey, a bigger space.
It's huge,
yeah. 350 people. Again, we did it again. The same reaction. We're like, and in that audience, there was somebody from the Hay Festival, and they said, "You are coming
that's
to
where
Hay next year."
They picked you on your second performance.
On our my second performance.
Wow, charmed.
And we were there, and we went to Hay. I remember going to the British embassy and getting
the visa,
a visa, and it said artist. I was like,
whoa,
who do I show?
A mythologist,
right? Artist, and we got it in 2 seconds.
Wow,
because it's a Hay. They know, they understand.
There is no question there.
Yeah, and then we had several shows outside of Hay. We had a first one in Hampstead Theatre, a lovely theatre.
Yeah, I know Hampstead Theatre actually.
Standing ovation. Everywhere we went, standing ovation. There was one space that was.
Was it like a mixed audience?
Yes, a mixed audience. I mean, in Hay, the majority of first of all, they gave us a space of 100 because people buy tickets.
Yeah.
And they had to increase it because more people wanted to see the show. So in the end, we had a space of 200, right? The majority of those people were old Muzungus.
Yeah.
Welsh. Yeah, because it's in Wales, right? They were laughing at the same places. I almost stopped. I wanted to stop and go, Can you explain to me why you're laughing when
Yeah.
I say Mawingo night bus? What do you even know what a Mawingo night bus
Yeah,
is?
you have no idea what it is. So you did not change it to suit the environment.
No, 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 no,
Mm,
no, no,
mm,
no. The mistake we make is
mm,
to think that the environment wants us to be like them.
mhm,
No,
mm-mm.
we are
They
taking
already
out.
have
They
their
already have
perfect
it. I mean,
side, so we cannot make it more perfect.
we can't. You
Mm,
know, you can't be try to be. You know, I'm going to use. Oh, I can use Beyonce because you guys. You know, I was going to use Michael Jackson
mm.
because it's from my generation.
Actually, it's also
You,
from my
yeah.
generation.
But you can't. You know, if you're going to sing like Beyonce,
Mm.
but it's already Beyonce.
There's already Beyonce. You
So why are you
can't.
singing like Beyonce?
Yeah, just sing like you.
You sing like you. The
Yeah,
world wants you,
yeah.
not a copy of.
Of Beyonce,
Yeah.
a cheap.
So exactly. So the world, you know, it was extraordinary.
Mm,
We didn't change a thing. The
mm,
music, and in fact, one of the things we didn't
mm,
do is we didn't explain the musical instruments because we went with the Kisi
mhm,
Obakano, which
mhm.
looks like a nyatiti, but it's huge
It's
and has
bigger.
this wonderful,
Mm,
you know, sound.
mhm.
And you know, and the nyatiti, and then the drums, etc. And we just like, oh, and everybody was like, what are those? So we were introducing Kenyan,
Yeah,
East African musical
yeah,
instruments
yeah.
to the world as well.
And it's been rise after rise. And
Yeah.
then you, what came first? It's when did you get into playwriting?
Okay, so what happened was the Sundance Theatre Lab,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, uh, Sundance has got a film festival,
Mm-hmm.
but they also have a theatre lab.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided to come to East Africa
Mm-hmm.
because they train and build the capacity of theatre people
Mm-hmm.
around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had a fellowship
Mm-hmm.
for East African
Mm-hmm.
artists,
Mm-hmm.
and I applied, and
Mm-hmm.
I was accepted on the
Mm-hmm.
strength of Cut of My Tongue.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons I applied was because I thought I'm an amateur. I don't really know what I'm doing, so let me take this play to
Yeah.
Sundance,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll help me because they bring the best, you know,
Mm.
directors and
Mm-hmm.
dramaturgists
Mm.
and theater people,
You have
right?
this industry
Oh,
experience from
exactly. With,
here.
you know,
Mm.
excellent. And so we were on Manda Island,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So for 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and there was Kenyans, Tanzanians, Ugandans, and Rwandans,
Mm-hmm.
right? And after a few days working with them, we realized cut of my tongue is just cut of my tongue. My methods, the way I approach, is just perfectly fine.
Mm.
There's nothing else that can be done
Can't
with it.
add, can't change that.
You don't need to. It's a winning formula.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
made it up,
Mhm.
and you know somebody has to make things
Yeah,
up, right?
somebody
And
does.
it's fine,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I then had like I'm going to stay here for 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do? And then I decided let me learn how to write a play under the
fellowship.
under the fellowship
Mm-hmm.
and with the tutoring,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I did.
And you did.
And every day I'd write something, and then
Mhm.
I'd show them, and they'd critique it,
Mhm.
and then at the end we then had the performances.
Mm-hmm.
And the play is called Black Maria on Koinange Street,
Mm-hmm.
and it ended up being one of the leading plays in a festival in Uganda.
Mm-hmm.
And then also you can find it online
Mm-hmm.
at a pen festival in New York.
What is it called again?
It's called Black Maria on Koinange Street.
Black Maria on Koinange Street. Black Maria on Koinange Street.
Exactly.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So they recorded it. And
yes, they recorded it. I couldn't go to New York, but it was performed.
Okay.
It was a reading,
Uh-huh.
and you can find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
God,
and then I continued. So my curiosity.
Yes.
You know that thing that
Yes.
I'm always saying, curiosity.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay. So now I've written one. I've got to write another one because you've got to put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
You can't write one play. You've got to write many to solidify your skills. Yeah. And so then I wrote my second play, which is Room of Lost Names.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I love,
Mm-hmm.
and it is in memory of Mercy Kano,
Mm-hmm.
a young woman who
Yeah, I
was
remember
killed in
Mercy.
2011.
That was a bad thing.
She just told me, don't let them forget me. And
And you
so
did.
yeah, and then that one was taken to um, in 2021 to Paris.
Wow.
You know, I
But
was.
you also have a lucky star. I think your life is charmed because I mean, I'm thinking all the playwrights I know, and you're just here getting this, and it's not like you're being helped.
Yes.
It's you going for it. Maybe
Yes.
it's going for it. We don't do. What do you think?
I mean, I really put in the time.
You do put in the time. Yeah.
Honestly, let's just take my musical.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2016, Eric Wainaina decides to put together a musical writing program for Kenyans, right? And there are 14 of us, 14 teams, right? Individuals, and we then become teams. Because with a musical, you need your book writer, and then you need your composers, right? And then you need your musicians to, start hearing what it sounds like, right? And so it's in partnership with New York University and again Sundance Theatre Lab, right? And they would come every 6 months from 2016, right, until 2019. And we were supposed to have a festival in 2020, but you know what happened in 2020?
The world stopped.
The world stopped, right? But so there's this process where from 2016 to 2018, my musical wasn't happening. I would write and it would look like a play because a place sits on the ground. A musical rises and bounces and sings and does all sorts of things, right? And you can actually hear it. So I'd be, we'd have these readings and my music would be sitting on the ground and I'd be like, oh my goodness,
it's not working.
Why am I even doing this? Yeah. So, but I persisted.
Yeah.
And eventually, I've got the most gorgeous musical, honestly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so me and my composer Elnez, Lydia Akwabi, have been working on this musical since 2016, right?
You are 2 years away from a decade.
And then 2018 is when the real thing happened, and I'd been writing a certain type of story.
Yeah.
And I remember Eric kept saying, no, that the story is over there. The story, and I'm looking at him like, I'm 3/4 almost finished.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing you. I'm not listening to you. And I'm just gonna finish. Yeah. And then after a while I realized, no, it's true. That's where the story is.
It is true, yeah.
And I have the chance of having an incredible story. Yeah. Or having an okay story. Yeah. And I stopped and started again. So I start again. Yeah. And it becomes this incredible musical. Yeah. It's called Escape. And it is set in a prison. And there's a young man who decides that he's called Jemo. And he decides he's fed up being in prison and he leaps out. He escapes and there are 4 others. He's the only one who survives because he knocks on a door and a young woman opens the door and he succeeds in getting her to hide him, convincing her to hide him. So she hides him under a bed, and she turns out to be the second young wife of the head of the prison. So the head of the prison is looking for him and he's hiding under the bed. He's the one who is hiding him. And so it all happens in this one space. So it's really intense. Yeah. Whereas the other one was spread out. Yeah. Right? So you concentrated it like this. Yeah. And there's a baby as well. And it's in Sheng, which I don't speak. I was gonna ask you who it's in Sheng, which I don't speak. It's in Kimeru, which I don't speak. Swahili and English. And then it's a hip hop, rap. Exactly. Wow. Exactly. Okay. So it's really it's really working. So I'm so happy it's really working, and hopefully we'll stage it. If I asked you about all your works, I think it will take us like a whole day. But I need to put you on the spot at this point because you have all these things written. Even looking at your profile is almost overwhelming because I'm like, whoa, like slow down. But then again, why haven't you published? Very, very good question. So I did publish Cut Off My Tongue with Story Moja, and then Story Moja pivoted, changed, and became a children's publisher. Yeah. So it can't continue. I can't continue publishing with Story Moja. I do not want to self-publish. Why not? I don't believe in self-publishing.
I would like to understand
the whole,
that.
yeah, the whole, imagine the whole logistics. So you publish books. So then you have to market them. So then you have to sell them. So then I'm just like, no.
Is it that better than not doing it at all? Because
I'm waiting for, I'm waiting.
You are
One of these
patient.
days, one of these days, a publisher is going to show up.
You know,
I'm
I love your confidence. So they're gonna show up. They're
A
gonna come looking
publisher's
for me.
gonna show
Because
up.
if they
I'm
show up,
serious.
also you've got work
I've got so
from
much work.
2007,
Oh my
and it's
goodness.
short stories, and it's plays, and it's poems, and it's all these. And where are you keeping them? Like that's over. You're going to 20 years of
it's 17
collection,
years
yeah?
now. Yes.
17 years.
Yes.
Where are you even going to start? What publisher is going to come and say, Sitawa,
would
Sawa,
they be happy? Imagine how happy they would be. If I were a publisher, I'd be like, what?
I want that.
Just one book? So, and then the other thing is that plays and poetry are really hard for publishers to take on board. Yeah. Right? Because they don't sell. They don't sell. They sell at events, yes, etc. So Rumi.
Actually, I had CB sitting right there some time back, and he had the same words.
Exactly. Rumi, you know the Persian poet Rumi, who has reached 100,000. When did he publish? When did he write his poetry? Several centuries ago.
Do you think it's because we prefer to consume poetry like this?
I think there is that, but I also just think that it's easy to pick up. We're used to picking up a book like this and reading it, but we're not used to reading poetry. We're not used to reading plays, and we've all got this bias against them.
Yeah. And I know I'm kind of guilty.
Exactly.
I am being very deliberate on consuming poetry. Right. But I can tell you, until maybe about 5 years ago, the only poetry I read was in high school, and that was because the teacher needed me to read that.
It, exactly. And then you probably had a bad experience.
Definitely.
You couldn't wait not to.
I could not wait not to read it.
Exactly.
So I don't know what you, the poets, what are you going to do? Because I think I believe people are missing on such amazing content because of something we have in our mind.
We do have other avenues. You know, you found a lot of my work on YouTube.
Online, yes,
online, exactly. So there are those avenues, and some people are better at publicizing and getting their work out, publishing their work online better than me. Yeah, right. Yeah. But I do have work online. And then I'm old-fashioned. I want a book.
You want a book? That is me. I also want.
I love my library. I love my books in my house.
That's the thing. There's something very interesting. There's a poem you've dedicated to an amazing woman whose name I can't remember.
Kipavita.
That's the one.
Oh, yeah.
Now, where did you even learn about her?
Can you imagine?
Yeah,
wasn't she amazing?
I checked her out, and I'm thinking, how do we not? No. How does the whole world not know this one? Ulimtoa wapi?
Kimpavita. One of the things that happened is, I don't know. You know, Too Early for Birds. The three young women, Alea Castle, Laura Ekumbo, and Anne Mora, had a show called Brazen. It was, I think, in 2018. And what they did is they did all this research on women heroes, Kenyan women heroes, and then they wrote a play. And literally they gave me the lead. Yeah. So I was Mudhoni wa Kirima, and it really interested me. It really got me interested in exploring women.
Great women.
Yeah, I was
like the unsung female heroes.
And so I went and I'm Googling because now I'm really interested in this subject.
Yeah.
And I find this woman and I'm like, no, why don't we know about her?
Right.
She's called the mother of the African Revolution.
I cannot believe we don't know about her.
When the Portuguese invaded Congo.
Yeah. Was it Congo or
The Kingdom of Congo
it's
was
a
huge.
Oh, so it's because they divided us. That's
Exactly.
why. Okay.
So the Kingdom of Congo, they had messed with it, and there was factions. Now people, the Congolese leaders, etc., fighting each other. And then she came up, and she was very young. I think
she was in her early 20s.
She was killed when she was 22.
So she did all this
probably
before,
19, very young.
Yeah.
She comes up, and she starts. She becomes a leader of the Congo, of the people of Congo, who then follow her, and she also has a religious element because she's Mganga Nyarinda. She's I think Mganga Marinda. She's like a seer,
like a
medicine woman,
yeah.
prophetess, all that stuff, good stuff rolled in one. And they follow her, and then she rebuilds their capital, Bamba. I can't remember the proper name. She rebuilds a capital, and she gets everybody proud again for being, the people to be proud of themselves, and they fight the Portuguese, and because the Portugal was a superpower that time, they fight them successfully, etc., etc. And then she, they've also become Catholic, right? The Congo,
It's like she had her own brand of Catholicism.
So she has her own brand of Catholicism. And she tells the Portuguese and her people that she went to heaven and she saw black angels walking hand in hand with white angels, black saints walking hand in hand with white saints. And the Portuguese are appalled at it because blacks and whites can be in heaven. Blacks can be in heaven and holding hands. And so because of all the how powerful she's become, they burn her at the stake at age 22. And why don't we know about her?
Why don't we know about her?
I'm so glad you said that.
No, I got so interested because I was like, I don't know. And of course, I'm always, after all these great African women, Kina, Mekatilili, and everybody, I would love this to go on and on and on. But I need you to do something before we wrap up.
Okay.
I need you to do a quick poem, one of your favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we can call it raps.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to perform a short one because you claim that I only write long ones. So
yes.
I have to prove to you that
Please
I do write short ones. And it's called Tell Me Your Name.
Okay.
Okay.
That's your camera.
Tell me your name. Does it call you? Tell me your name. Does it speak you? Does it feel you? Does it hear you? Does it love you right back when you speak it out loud in the night? Tell me your real name. Tell me your real name. Nieleze jina lako. My name, my real name, is Sitawa Namwalie.
Thank you so much. Isn't she amazing? Unfortunately, all good things have to come to an end, and this is one of them. Thank you so much, Sitawa. I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface, but
Thank you. Time
is not on our side.
Right.
Thank you so much. Before we sign off, I'd like to thank my amazing crew here. We would like to thank Cheche Book House. They are amazing in affording us with the space. And we'll see you next time. My name, Empress Ciku Mwaniki. Bye-bye.